Most people build workout plans completely backwards. They start with exercises, argue about splits, and then spend hours looking for the perfect program. But before any of that, there are a few decisions that determine whether a workout plan is actually going to work. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to build a workout plan that fits your goals, your schedule, and your life, and you'll be able to tell whether any workout plan is actually worth following. Let's get into it. Most people build workouts completely backwards. The biggest mistake they make is starting with the exercises before they know where they're actually going or how to get there. Today, we're gonna build a workout plan in the order that I build mine and my clients. Starting with step one, probably one of the most important. I think you know what it is, right? If you're getting into your car and you need to go somewhere, you need to know where you're going. So we're starting with step one, your goal. There's so many different goals you can choose from. But it does help to choose one main goal, one specific goal. That could be fat loss, that could be building muscle, that could be improving your performance or your athleticism, that could be general health, that could be I want to get stronger, that could be I want to get faster, I want to improve my mobility, I just want to keep up with my kids. But it helps to have one main goal that you're pursuing so you know exactly where you're going and you don't have to take detours or slow you down in the process. And if you followed my training at all, you probably wonder, so Hannah, is your goal to build muscle? You're always talking about fat loss, but you're always telling me to work on my mobility. You want me to get stronger. What are you working on? And that's a good point. Because I've been doing this for so long, I've gone through variations of goals. I've gone through phases where I'm just building muscle and I don't care about fat loss, don't care about mobility, I don't care about athleticism. I just want to get stronger. I want to improve one skill. I want to work on one new move. But I've also gone through phases where fat loss maybe is going to be the goal. Strength training is just to support fat loss. I'm not necessarily trying to improve my strength or add more muscle. I just want to maybe kind of, lean out for the summer a little bit. Sometimes it's been a little bit more mobility. I realized, you know what? I could do with a little hip mobility. I could work on my glute activation. I could use those a little bit more than, let's say, my lower back. So all is to say, I've gone through various different goals. And now, today, right this moment that I'm talking to you, I have multiple goals. Yes, I want to burn fat. Yes, I want to build muscle. Yes, I want to get stronger. And yes, I want to be more mobile. And yes, I want to be more athletic. So you can do more than one at a time. But that being said, it comes at a cost because obviously your attention is broken up into different categories, into different focuses. It will slow down progress in any one of those categories. So does not mean saying you can't choose more than one thing, more than one goal. You absolutely can. But just be aware that when you choose your goal, and if it has multiple goals, that is going to affect the speed at which you reach any one of those goals. Which brings me to probably one of the most common goals, building muscle and burning fat, most commonly known as body recomposition. Can you do both at the same time? You might be excited to hear the answer. Yes, you can. Especially if you're a beginner, especially if you are coming back from an injury or you've been deconditioned, and especially if you have a fair amount of body weight to lose. I did a whole video on this. Can you build muscle and burn fat at the same time? If you want to do a deeper dive into that. But all you need to think about is you need to be in a calorie deficit and you also need to be applying progressive overload to your training, which we'll go deeper into in this video. Now that we know where we're going, your goal, which I know you've written down, right? Let's talk about how we get there. And let's start with your training split. So step two, choose your training frequency. Frequency being how often are you training in a week? Not to be confused with volume or the overall amount of training that you're doing, but when you look at your week, Monday to Monday, Monday to Sunday, how often in that week, realistically guys, are you planning on training? Is more better? More is better if you actually do it. More is not better if you don't actually do it. So think what you can realistically do. You can always add another day. That is a form of progressive overload, adding an additional day into your split, but start with How often are you training in a week? Now, next question, what days are those gonna be? Schedule it out. I have on my calendar the most important things I do. I schedule my workouts, I schedule my sessions with my clients, I schedule my meetings, I schedule my filming, I schedule all the things that need to happen, but my workouts are one of the main priorities after I've got my schedule with my clients. My workouts are in there scheduled. Not just, I'll fit it in when I can. No, from 11 to 12 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, these are the days I train. Put it specifically in so that you're not just winging it when it comes to it. Because guess what? It's probably gonna be one of the things that falls off. Life happens. How often should you be training? 3 times a week is gold. You can get a lot done with twice a week, but 3 times a week brings you from a little bit more maintaining to progressing. It's also realistic. It gives you enough time to recover. If you want to do other forms of workouts, like other than strength training, like conditioning, cardio, mobility, whatever else you enjoy, 3 times a week gives you enough time to progress and enough time to recover. And it's realistic. You can stick with it so you can actually see progress. That said, 3 to 5 times, again, if it's realistic, if you can really do it, as long as you are recovering properly. Beginners, ease into it. Don't start out thinking I'm gonna go 5 days a week if you are brand new to it. Literally give yourself proof that you can do this, starting with 2 to 3 times a week. If you do that for a month, 2 months, and you're like, this is fine, I feel great, I wanna just up it, do another day. But stick to it consistently for more than a couple weeks. I want you to remember that we're talking about you. We're not talking about someone who all of a sudden is just someone different once we talk about workouts. This is why New Year's resolutions always seem to fail, because we think we're talking about somebody else. No, we're still talking about you. You who has real life, you who has stress, you who has work, who has kids, who has family, who has social commitments, who wants to also just live a life. We're talking about you. So realistically, what can you handle? We're not trying to make workouts your everything, unless that's what you want and this is your time to go hard and you're really going to commit to it. But that also comes at a cost. There's a sacrifice for that as well. We're trying to think about realistically, what can you handle? Don't let this be another thing that you start and cannot finish because it was unrealistic what you could actually handle. All right. Once we know how often you're training, now let's talk about how to organize those workouts, specifically your splits. Everyone loves to talk about a split. What's the best split for muscle building? What's the best split for fat burning? What is the best split? Listen, there's a lot of different ways you can do this, okay? Again, depending on your goal, depending on how frequently you want to train in the week. Some common options, let's say you're training 3 times a week. My favorite split, I think most people can agree with this, would be a total body, an upper body, and a lower body. Why? Because it gives you a chance to hit all muscle groups twice in 1 week. One where you're in the full body where you can hit everything, and maybe it's going to be a little bit more dynamic or conditioning because you're going upper, lower, upper, lower. And then in the other one where it's going to be a little bit more focused, where you're focusing just on upper body workouts, where you can do a little bit more accessory work, or you can do a little bit more volume in a specific area of muscle groups. Same with lower body. Some people like push-pull legs, which can be included for upper lower. There are pushes with legs and pulls with legs, just as there are for upper bodies. If you don't know what I'm talking about with pushes and pulls, you can watch my video on the best compound exercises for building muscle and burning fat. I break it down into movement patterns. For upper body, you've got horizontal pull, horizontal push, things like rows for pulls and presses for pushes, vertical pull and vertical push, things like pull downs or pull-ups for pulls, and then obviously shoulder presses for press. For legs, you're looking at squat patterns, you're looking at hinges, and you're looking at a single leg variation of some kind. Push-pull legs does not necessarily always mean it's just upper, upper, lower. Push and pull can be broken up into full body push, full body pull, and then legs. A lot of people don't do that. If you're doing 4 days, this is that really fun sweet spot. You can do 2 upper body, 2 lower body days, or you can do 2 full bodies and 1 upper and 1 lower. This is where it can get fun because you can change the focus for what those workouts are going to be. So just because you're focusing on a certain muscle group doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be working in hypertrophy for the entire time. Hypertrophy simply means muscle growth. It's the type of training that you would be doing where your goal is just pure muscle growth. Traditionally, that was 8 to 12 reps, but recently more and more studies have come up to show that can be a lot more reps and a lot fewer reps. As long as you are working near to or close to failure, you can achieve hypertrophy when you're doing 6 reps or even up to 30 reps, although after that it can start to be more diminishing returns. When I'm doing 4-day split, I'll go back and forth. For maybe about 3 months, I'll do upper, lower, where the first upper is a little bit more focused on just pure strength, accessories, where I want to think about more like chiseling. I want to just, Michelangelo that shit, just make it look good. Get the shoulders, get the triceps, nice strong back. I'm just chiseling. I'm just going in there with my little pick. I think it's a pick. Whatever you use to chisel, I'm using that. Same with legs. First day of legs might be more focused on just chiseling, making things look great. Second day of upper, that's where it gets a little fun, gets a little spicy. Maybe it's a little bit more athletic, a little more conditioning. Maybe I'm focusing on a little more skills, something that maybe wouldn't necessarily fall in the, this is chiseling me, this is making me look good, where this is making me move good. This is making me functional. This is just challenging me in the movement patterns, in the stability, in the load. That's where I can kind of challenge myself and try some fun new things. Same with the legs. My first leg workout is focused a little bit more on hypertrophy, building up the muscle, more of the accessories. Second leg workout is a little bit more on I add in some box jumps, some intervals, some dynamic movements, some plyometrics, which is just more explosive training. Same thing if you're gonna do it with 2 full bodies and an upper lower. Full body number 1, maybe it's gonna be a little bit more dynamic. It's full body conditioning. This is what I like to do. I like to do athletic training, where I'm really doing power, I'm doing sprints, I'm doing explosive training, moving weight quickly, really improving my athleticism and dynamic control. And then maybe I go to my upper body, where I'm gonna be a little bit more focused on the strength. I wanna have a strong upper body, strong core stability. Then I go to lower body, where same thing, I'm focused on strength. How close can I get to failure? And then the second full body might be focused more on skills or more dynamic movements. Things like different squat variations, things that are a little bit more challenging, but not so focused on pure hypertrophy or muscle building. Again, this comes back to your goal, because my goals right now are focused on being as competent in many different forms as possible: athleticism, strength, power, muscle building, all of it. I'll go back and forth between which workout is more focused on what. One of the most important questions for you to ask as you are building your split and working through it: how is your recovery? If you get in and you have hardly any energy, you have hardly any focus, your body, you're feeling sore, you can't seem to recover, you're feeling stiff still, that is a sign that you could possibly be overtraining. Maybe every workout is a little too high, or maybe you're not giving it enough space, enough rest time between the really intense workouts. Usually I'll do 2, maybe 3 workouts back to back max, but that means that I'm not hitting the same muscle groups back to back. So pay attention to that. And also, guys, remember, we're talking about you. Part of what your recovery includes is life. Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating properly? Are you stressed out with work or family or social obligations? That is going to be eating into your recovery as well. It's something that you need to consider, just like you'd be considering how hard you're going in the gym. It becomes counterproductive if you're just going to keep pushing yourself like crazy just because you got to stay on schedule with a workout plan. If you're not recovering, you're going to injure yourself. You're not going to make progress. Keep those in mind as well when you're working through this. Which brings me to a question I get a lot, which is deloads. When should I plan my deloads? When should I add in my deload week? Deload can mean a lot of different things. It can mean you are bringing the intensity of your workouts down significantly. So you're still doing the movement patterns, you are still loading yourself through the range of motion, but it's a lot less intense to help your body recover. Perhaps you're taking the week off entirely and you're just maybe walking or breathing or doing some mobility or yoga. Maybe it's just active recovery. Maybe it's trying a new movement altogether. Or I'm on vacation, I want to try some surfing, I want to do any of these different things. The reason I don't schedule it in for the most part, it's there if you need it, because life naturally will give that to you. We naturally have a week where we either go on vacation and we're just out of our routine, or we get sick, or a loved one gets sick that we have to take care of. Perhaps it's work gets crazy and we just cannot bring it all in. Life naturally starts to put in those deloads. If you're going for 16 plus weeks with no deloads, no chance, no taking time off, maybe you need one. I don't intentionally schedule them in unless I need it, which is rare because life naturally does it. I have guests staying from out of town. I'm gonna be off my routine. It's normal, it's not a big deal. I take a week off, maybe get one workout in, a light workout in. We're walking a lot. My body's gonna be completely fine to go back in, probably better. Maybe I go on vacation. Maybe work just gets crazy and I don't have the time anymore in my schedule. The important thing to remember is that that's a week. It doesn't become the default or the norm. But consider the deloads that life naturally puts into your schedule. And if you're not getting those, maybe you give them to yourself. But be honest with yourself if you need it, if you've been getting it, and what that means, and getting back into it. If you're new to working out, complete beginner, you may need and probably will need a little bit longer to recover. Now, step 4. This is where people like to start. Selecting your exercises. How do you choose the right exercises? This is where I say it all the time. Start with movement patterns. What are movement patterns? These are patterns that your body should be able to move in, especially under load, that we have to move in daily life. To squat, we get up and down from a chair all the time. To hinge, we bend over and pick something off of the floor. To row, we pull a door open or pull something towards us. To press, either overhead or forward, you're pushing yourself off of the floor to stand up. You're putting something heavy in the overhead compartment. To do a single leg exercise, you step up. On one leg at a time, you're supporting your weight and you're pushing and you're stabilizing. These are movement patterns that you should be training, you should be getting good at, you should be practicing, because you're probably gonna find there's gonna be a movement pattern that is really, really hard, or you're feeling it in the wrong place. Perhaps your hinge is all back and no hips. Perhaps you don't know how to maintain lat engagement when you're holding something in front of you. Maybe you have really little stability on one leg when you're trying to step up the stairs or go down the stairs. Start with movement patterns. Again, if you're not sure where to start, watch my video on the best compound exercises for building muscle and burning fat. That's where I cover the movement patterns, and you can understand the 7 main movement patterns, how to start, how to progress them, how to practice them. So start with movement patterns. You should have those be the foundation, the core of your program. 4 to 6 of those exercises in each workout. I like to think of 4 of the movement patterns in each workout, and then I sprinkle in accessories and core work. Let's just talk about core real quick. If you've been around here for a long time, if you've listened to my videos before, you know how I feel about breathing. Breathing is the first step. Breathing is what not only gets you into your body, but builds capacity to maintain stability, to maintain load, intra-abdominal pressure, to keep the tension in the right place and keep it out of the wrong place. So start with your breath. Improve your diaphragmatic breathing. If you're breathing still up here or not at all, do some diaphragmatic breathing. Again, I've got a video on that if you're not sure about where to start with your breathing, to assess it, and then also to work on the diaphragm, and then how to start to work on it to resist and support you under load. For core, there are a series of exercises, or rather movement patterns, that are called anti-core exercises. Anti-extension would be a plank or a leg lower. You're not arching your back as you are lowering your legs. You're in a plank. You're fighting that extension of your lumbar. Anti-rotations would be things like bird dogs or cable core presses, where you're not letting the resistance pull you. Anti-flexion would be things like farmer's carries, where you're not letting the weight pull you down or let gravity take over, but you're actually maintaining and keeping yourself nice and upright. Anti-lateral flexions would be literally laterally flexing your spine. So that would be things like suitcase carries or suitcase marches or any form of a side plank. These things are important because it helps your core learn how to resist movement, which is the main point of the core. If you're in a squat and you cannot maintain spinal stability, your core is going to flex down, round down, and you're not going to be able to maintain that nice upright spine. So being able to maintain an upright spine is going to require resisting the movement, resisting the load. So I do 4 exercises of the main movement patterns, and then sprinkle in a couple core exercises and a couple accessory movements at the end. In terms of what variation should you choose, what do you have access to? And what feels right? Where are you starting from? Start with body weight. If you're brand new to everything, just learn the movement patterns. If you've gotten more comfortable with the movement patterns and now you really are, and you're ready to move it on with load, start with a dumbbell. Those are usually the best place to start after you put the movement patterns in your body. Kettlebells are a great progression from dumbbells. The weight is distributed differently because it's below as opposed to two sides, so it forces you to create a little bit more stability. Once you feel comfortable with dumbbells and kettlebells, move on to barbells or trap bar where you can really load it up heavy. Use cables for core exercises and things like accessory movements or just different variations. Do a chest fly with a cable instead of a dumbbell. What do you have access to? Are you training at home? Most likely you're going to be working with dumbbells, bands, body weights, or a combination of all of it. And then go back to your goal. What's your goal? Finally, your preference and any injury history that you have. If you have a history of injuries, take that seriously. It doesn't mean you should avoid a movement pattern. Quite the opposite. Usually it means you need to perfect it and work on it more. When I tweaked my back, the answer wasn't to never do deadlifts again. The answer was deadlifts once I learned how to do them properly. In terms of the order of exercises, put the most important exercise first. What's the most important exercise, Hannah? How do I know the most important exercise? A couple different ways. One, let's say you got a muscle group. Listen, you really want to grow those glutes. You want that juicy, juicy peach. You just want it big. Put that exercise first. What exercise is going to grow that juicy, juicy peach? Put it first. But beyond that, there are certain exercises that do require more output, meaning how much work is required. This is where I want you to understand the difference between compound exercises and isolated or accessory exercises. Compound, multi-joint exercises. This would be things that require multiple joint actions. Joint actions, meaning a joint is moving. A bicep curl, you got one joint moving, just your elbow. It's the only joint that's moving, so you're working a muscle that just requires elbow flexion. That would be a single joint exercise or isolated accessory exercise. A compound exercise would be multiple joint actions. Those would be things like squats. You've got hip flexion, knee flexion, and ankle flexion on the eccentric, or the lowering and lengthening portion of the movement. And then hip extension, knee extension, and ankle extension on the concentric or the shortening part, the standing up. Start your workouts with the exercises that require more joint movements. So think about the exercises that you want to include in this workout. Which one requires the most joints to move? Those are the exercises you should put at the front. Why? Because it includes way more muscle groups. This is why compound exercises are one of the most efficient forms of building muscle and burning fat, because you're using so many more muscle groups and you're using so much more energy and effort to do so. Squats should be first. Squats should not be one of the last exercises in your workout. If they are, you're probably not going as heavy as you should be, and you need to try to experiment with putting it sooner. So look at the exercises you've got planned and think which of these exercises requires the most joint action and requires the most muscle groups. Those need to be put first. Those are going to require the most effort and energy from you. Put those first so that you can really do a good job and load it up heavy. For you, relatively speaking, of course, load it up heavy for you. After that, once you've done 1, 2, maybe 3 exercises that are multiple joints, multiple muscle groups, maybe now you're starting to get into more of the single joint. Now you're maybe getting closer to the bicep curls or the hamstring curls or things that require one joint to move or just one muscle group. You've made it clear, Hannah. So I would start up with a warm-up. I would start with the movement patterns you're going to do in the workout and then move on to some form of stabilization exercise, mobility exercise, and core exercise that is going to be around those movement patterns. Okay, now you have your goal laid out. You've got how many days a week you're gonna train. You've figured out the split you're gonna start with. You've scheduled it into your schedule, and you put in some exercises into those workouts. Great. Hannah, how heavy should I lift? How many reps should I do? Where do I go with that? This is where I want you to understand RPE, rate of perceived exertion. A lot of us, we drastically underestimate our max output. By max output, I mean literally what it sounds like. This is the max intensity you could possibly muster. This is you imagining that you are a mama bear and your little cubs are underneath that car and you gotta pick that car up and move it to get your baby cubs. This is the devil is chasing you sprints. There is nothing else that you have left in the tank. That is max output. That would be rated as 10 on the RPE scale. Rate of perceived exertion would be 10. That is max output. A lot of us think we're at our max output when really we're closer to a 7 and maybe an 8. I go to a 10 sometimes. But honestly, going to a 10 is very scary. It's quite scary. When you get to step under the bar and you're like, I don't know if I can stand up with this. You've got a spotter, of course. Or you get into the treadmill and you are sprinting at a speed you don't know that you will be able to maintain for longer than 10 seconds. Or you literally feel like you're going to collapse when you're done, or the movement slows down when you're in your rep. This is max output. We're not going to go there all the time. We're just not. For a lot of reasons. One, who wants to? If you know that's what's waiting for you every time you go to the gym, max output, the devil's gonna be chasing you every single time. Yeah, no, I'm not. No thanks. I'm busy that day. I think I'll plan on getting sick. It's not gonna happen all the time. It's important to know what it feels like. It's important to push yourself to that sometimes, but it is going to also make recovery a lot slower because you are recovering from such a high adrenaline rush that your body is not used to, that we never really utilize in daily life. But you do want to see what it feels like to push yourself to the point where that was a little bit scary. Of course, you work up to that. You're not going to just learn how to deadlift and the next day you go in and be like, great, what's my max? No. We're gonna work up to that. You're gonna slowly increase it. And by RPE of 10 or max output, that doesn't necessarily mean max weight. That could be what weight can you maintain for 10 reps? Okay, you can sprint that fast for 10 seconds. Can you do it for 20? So how do you know? Let's say RPE 8 would mean you could probably do 2 more reps. You probably could. It would suck. Really be uncomfortable. You probably want to die. You don't ever want to do it again, but you could do it. Gun to your head, you could do it. 7 to 8 is where you want to be for the most part. 9 would be you have 1 left. Maybe it's a half one. Maybe it's not that pretty, but you could do it. 10 is that was it. I had nothing left. My cubs under the car, I gave it my all, and the cubs under the car are either safe or they're not. But I have nothing left to give. Now, when it comes to pushing yourself to the point of a 9 or a 10, I'm telling you, it's important to do. You need to build your capacity for discomfort. But this is where you also need to remember, again, going back to what we talked about with your recovery, daily life is going to play a part. If you're underslept, if you're overstressed, if your nutrition is suffering, if you've got other family or social obligations that are occupying your mind, those are going to be things that are going to affect your max output. This is not an excuse to never push yourself to that point, because you should. This is helping you understand how everything plays a part, and training does not exist in isolation of your life. Training is there to make your life stronger, more competent, more efficient, and with a greater capacity. Life and training need to be working together. They don't exist in vacuums apart from each other. Okay, so now we've got your workout as a whole. We've kind of figured out where you want to be. How do we progress it? Do I just stay at an RPE of 8, just kind of forever? Do I ever move down? How do I progress? When should I go to a 9 or a 10? Let's talk about how to progress it. If you've been on my channel, you've heard me talk about progressive overload ad nauseum. I think we know what that means by now. It is a way of gradually, emphasis on gradually, guys, gradually increase something over a period of time. You're not staying still at one weight or volume forever. By volume, what do I mean? I mean the amount of weight you are lifting, the amount of reps you are doing, the amount of sets that you are doing. Those are the volume variables that you can progress. You can add an extra rep or 2 at the same weight. That could be a way of getting you closer to an RPE of 9. You could increase the weight, drop the reps a little bit to increase the weight. You could be adding another set. Maybe you don't touch the weight or the reps, but you add another set in there. So instead of 3 sets of squats at 100 pounds for 8 reps, you do 4 sets of squat for 100 pounds for 8 reps. That's a way of you increasing your overall volume. Outside of the volume of progressive overload, there's other ways that you can be progressing. You could be improving your range of motion, better control, better mind-muscle connection, meaning you're using the right muscles. You're not using the traps when you should be using your lats for a pull down or a pull up, but you're using your core and you're using your lats. Those are other ways. Those are more performance focused. Those are more subjective than the volume variables. These are objective. You've either lifted this amount of weight for this amount of reps, this many times, or you didn't. On the more subjective side, we've got things like how it feels, the range of motion, how quickly you can recover, the control you have, how you feel it in your body. These are just as important as these. They are just measured differently and are gonna look different from person to person and even from time to time for you. In terms of how much you should increase, you wanna shoot for 2.5 to 5% progression each time. 2.5 to 5%. Stay with the plan long enough to see changes. You can't push harder forever. Volume and intensity will hit a point where they stall or slow down. But this is where the periodization takes on other facets. That's where the other parts come into play. This is where deloads can be useful if they're not built into your life like we talked about before. Your performance stalls, you're not recovering quickly, you feel sore, you feel tired, you're just mentally, you just cannot, you don't care, you're just not in it. This is where it might do you good to schedule in a deload, lighten the loads for the week, take a week off, just walk. I like to schedule my progressions in blocks of 6 weeks. Week 1, we build the base. By week 2, now let's get a little bit better. Let's add a couple reps in there. By week 3, let's now see if we can increase the weight. By week 4, we're adding in another set. By week 5, we're pretty much maxing out and hitting our max. That's where I wanna go for an RPE of 9 or 10, by week 5. By week 6, that's where I bring it down just a little bit, bring me back to an 8. That's how I do periodization for my clients and for myself. After 6 weeks, I reassess, I see where I was, where I started, where I finished, and then I'm either going to rotate new exercises in or challenge or progress certain variations. Instead of maybe a dumbbell deadlift, I'm gonna move on to a barbell deadlift, or I'm going to change the order. Maybe I keep deadlifts as my main exercise, but I wanna change the exercises in that workout. Or that would be a good time for me to start to switch up. Okay, maybe, I've done the same split for 12, 18 weeks, 3 cycles of, upper, lower, upper, lower. Now I'm ready to do 3 cycles of 2 full body and an upper, lower. These are ways for you to stick with it long enough, but still progress enough that you're not getting bored and you can see the progress. And step 7, now you're in it, you're progressing it. Let's talk about your recovery. What matters between the workouts? This part is just as important. Movement helps you recover. Breathing helps you recover. Again, life does not exist in isolation to training or vice versa. They coexist. They must talk to each other. They must work with each other. If you're underslept, if your nutrition is suffering, if you're stressed, these are going to affect your training in a way that could be counterproductive if you try to push through it. See how these things are connected. See how they all work together. It doesn't matter how good your program is if your recovery is suffering, if your recovery is poor. Now let's just real quick, before I let you go, answer the question, what happens, Hannah, if I miss a workout? Do I make it up? Do I do it a different day? Do I do 2 in one day? Do I push it back? Do I not recover? When do I work out if I miss a workout? I would say think about it. Assess it. What workout did you miss? Is it one of the workouts that's gonna push the needle furthest based off of your goal? Let's say your goal is to grow your glutes and it's a leg day that you missed and the next workout you have is an upper body day. All right, then just do that and skip the upper body and get yourself back on schedule. Is it an upper body day, but your goal is glutes? Skip it. Skip it. It's not the end of the world. Move forward. Move on. Take ownership of not beating yourself up, not having to squeeze it in and eat into your recovery time. But at the same time, take ownership. If this is a one-off, it's a one-off. It's not a big deal. We don't beat ourselves up. It's not important. We move on. Why are you training? You're training to be more competent in life, right? If it's not a one-off and you notice you've started to miss or skip workouts more frequently, be honest with yourself about that. Just because Hannah said skip the workout, I didn't say to skip the last 5 workouts. Be honest with yourself about that. If that means that you need to reassess and do a different split, then do that. But don't keep telling yourself I'm doing 3 when you are only doing 2, or you're consistently missing, or you go a week on and a week off. Stick with the thing that you can do. Skip it when you need to if it is truly a one-off. Okay, so just to wrap up, now we know where we're going. We've set the goal. You got that written out. You know how often you're gonna train to get yourself there. You put it into your schedule. You know exactly what days and what times it's in your schedule. You know what those workouts are gonna consist of. Monday it's legs, Wednesday it's upper, Friday it's full body. You've written out the exercises. Then it's intensity. Great, what is my RPE? How many sets, how many reps? How am I gonna progress it across however long? And you figured out your recovery. I know that's a lot, but if you think about it, step 1, step 2, step 3, where am I going and what is the plan I have to build to get myself there? That's gonna keep you in it much more than just picking cool exercises you saw on the gram. Let me know any questions you have below, and let me know what is your #1 goal right now. And if you have more than one goal, let me know that too. I'll see you in the next one.